Well, hello, I'm Everett Hill. I'm an author and a blogger at everetth.com. That's everetth.com. And I just love sharing the joys of an authentic Christian lifestyle with people. I'm here with Daniel Ramamoorthy. He's an entrepreneur, speaker, and musician in Ireland. We actually met while he was going to Yale. He was part of some different church stuff that we were doing, and so I would hang out with him a bit. We went onto the Yale campus, played ping pong, all different kinds of stuff. So I've known this guy for a little while. Haven't seen him in person for a little while, but it's definitely been fun to know him, and we've been connecting again recently. So I just want to do an interview with him and see how he's doing.
So, quick one. I think we might have met in 2004, 2005. So we've known each other for more than a decade, which for some people might not seem like a lot, but despite the American accent, I'm Indian and I grew up in 10 countries and I'm now 30. So that's roughly 3 years. So my average friendship is about 2 to 3 years. So to know someone for over a decade is really special. So I'm delighted to know you and your family for over 10 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's definitely surprising. When I hear that, it's like, wow, yeah.
That's
So,
a long time. You
yeah,
were not a dad then, or an author, or a blogger, or an adult, or able to grow any facial hair. So
yeah,
this
and
is all huge
I don't think
growth.
I was a Christian then. I know I wasn't a Christian then. I lived up in a Christian household, but I wasn't actually dedicated to God. So it was like, definitely gone through several phases of life, while I've known you. So that's awesome. But yeah, so one thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking, okay, I'd love to have this conversation, but I really want to have something that would be valuable for people, and also just something that I can maybe glean something from you as we talk about what it's like to be busy and to be doing a bunch of things for God, but also spending time with God. So what in a typical day, as a Christian entrepreneur, speaker, and musician, how do you balance your being with God and you're doing things for God?
Yeah, so the honest answer is not very well, but it's something that I am conscious about and aware and trying to work on. I think so. When I was younger, I might have thought that doing work for God was something like being a pastor or a priest or worship leader or youth worker, something of that sort. And I'm very fortunate that because of my parents, my dad was a diplomat and he retired, but he saw his job as an extension of his work for God.
Hmm.
And my mom was a programmer and an amazing mom at home and did so many endless charitable works. And she saw all of that as an extension of just how she was created to honor and glorify God. So it was nice to see that in the home. And I think theologically, I caught up with that as well. And so I see my everyday existence, whether it's playing music, whether it's speaking on a stage, whether it's travel, whether it's just buying like groceries in the shop, or whatever it is, as an extension of what I was created to do. So I don't think I delineate from like, hey, now I'm working and now I'm working for God. I think it's all the same thing. So that part I think I've worked out. But your question was really good. It was about how do you be with God and spend time with God, and also you know, just do life with God. So I think I figured out doing life with God. Whether like as I'm driving to meetings, I'm praying. As I am celebrating, I'm just naturally just worshiping. As I spend time with people, I try to see God in them. So that part I've got, but the actual spending time with God, that is difficult. And right before we started this, we were chatting a little bit about morning schedule. I think the trick is the morning schedule. I try to put discipline at the end of the day. That's very hard for me. There's a lot going on in my mind. But as of this morning, started waking up at 7 in the morning, and I'm hoping that that will carve out a good 45 minutes in the morning to spend time with God. So yeah, I've gone through seasons in my life of what that looks like. Last year I was a lot better. I do a full hour every morning, and I used to wake up really early and I do a full hour in the morning, and I go to the gym afterwards, and it was absolutely incredible. But because I get bored easily, how I ran the hour would change. So sometimes it was just spending time reading as much of the Bible as I could. Sometimes it was sitting at the piano and worshiping. Sometimes I was listening to sermons and podcasts. Sometimes I was going for a run while listening to some worship music. For a while, I was even journaling and writing things down. So I was trying to actively listen as opposed to do stuff. Sometimes I just light candles and I would just sit quietly for an entire hour, which for me is impossible. I also tried meditation, so I'd pick 4 or 5 words and just repeat the same words over and over again. Sometimes I went to like ancient prayer forms and would try to do that now in the 21st century. So I changed it up to keep it fun and exciting because there's many ways to, whoa, phone. There are many ways to be disciplined and to exercise discipline in your Christian life. But yeah, so last year was better. This year, not as good, but I'm working on it. I'm gonna switch this off.
Awesome. Well, I think one thing that you hit on there was that things are constantly change in that pattern, and it's not so important as what you do, as how you're doing it, and where your heart is in all of that. So, as you continue to figure out, okay, what kind of routine works in this particular part of my life, that definitely changes drastically how you interact with God. It's the same thing with me and my relationship with my daughter Mia. She's almost 17 months now, and just over the last 17 months, it's just drastically changed many times in the way that I relate to her, and that relationship with her and the way that she's acting, that really changes the way that my morning times can be. For a while it was like I had a solid hour, and then for a little while after that I was like, okay, she's waking up way earlier now. I got a half an hour, and I've really worked on carving out a full hour now. But yeah, you can't just stick with the same rigid pattern for even a few months sometimes, just with the way life is going. But I think the key is to continue to press into it and to do that no matter what. And it sounds like that's something that's very much on your mind. Like, okay, I know this isn't going the way that it could go, but
Yeah.
how do I figure out how to make it go? And I think that's the most important thing, is that our hearts are directed towards God, even if our actions don't always meet up with the perfect standard that we know it exists, things like that. So yeah, yeah, just encouraging people. It's not about doing things perfectly. It's about doing things with a God-centered heart. So
I think
yeah.
that's such an incredible way to put it. Because some people do beat themselves up, and I beat myself up sometimes if I don't get it right. And I set myself incredible standards as well, and sometimes I don't achieve them, and it's easy for guilt and shame to kick in. But you're absolutely right. I think it's about the desire and the heart for it. Because if that's in place, the rest will follow. It's just a matter of giving it time and resources to make it happen. But if you're just forcing yourself against your will to do something, it's not going to last.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I think even as you're listening to this, and if there's a part of you that's going like, actually, I need to put some discipline into my heart, into my life, or "Hey, I need to read my Bible, or I'd like to try something different. I'd like to try running with God, or doing some ancient meditation, something of that sort. Honor that instinct, and I think that's the most important first step, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I got two questions here, and I think the questions, like the answers to the questions, will probably help out most people. People fall within kind of two categories here most of the time. So my first question is, what would you say to someone who's starting to feel really burnt out in their work life, and they feel like, okay, I don't really have a solid base with God at this point?
Burnt out with work or burnt out with God?
With work.
Okay, I am really, really blessed and privileged that I get to do what I love doing, and somehow the money follows. I know that's not the case for everybody, and I know sometimes there are situations in your life. There might be debts that you have to pay, or loans, or there might be family situation or medical issues that maybe you just have to work, and you don't get to pick what work you do. There's something to cover the bills. I'm going to deal with that after. But for those that do have a choice, and if you're feeling burnt out, I think there's two main things that you can do. One is to stop, reassess, and come back to the basics, right? And that might reinitiate a love and a desire for the work you do. So if you're in a teaching job and you're feeling burnt out, stop, reassess, and then go back to the basics. Why did you start teaching in the first place? What is it that excited you about it? So maybe the admin is killing you. Maybe certain colleagues are killing you, but you did it for the kids. And are the kids still there? Or you did it because education is important to you? Are you still a good teacher that is able? And I think that might reinitiate a passion for the work you do. And that's important to have those moments when you think about what you're doing, because we get so caught up in the cycle of life that we just the rat race, and you actually lose focus. So that's the first. The second, when you stop and reassess, and you go, actually, I don't actually believe this is. It's taking the teacher analogy. Actually don't believe this is a impactful way to educate. Or actually, no, the kids that I'm teaching were never the kids I wanted to be teaching in the first case. Then maybe it's time to switch careers, and don't be afraid to do that. You get one shot at life, one, and every day is numbered. We're not here indefinitely. And there is a distinct call in your life, and your purpose and your motivation are things that are also God given. And so, if those are not aligning with your work, leave it. Don't waste time. Trust God and trust that He is faithful. And if there is a conviction that you're not in the right place, not in the right time, and you feel like that's a prodding of the Holy Spirit, don't look back. Leave the job and try to follow what God is calling you to do. That sounds scary and it sounds idealistic. It is it is scary. And in some ways it is idealistic because it's not going to be that easy. Even though I was like, just leave it and go do the next job, it's never going to be that easy. It's going to be potentially weeks and months of turmoil and maybe even a little bit of remorse or something like, oh, I might have made the wrong decision. But that's part of the process, and God will teach you through that as well. But please don't waste your days. Don't waste your life, because life is a wonderful, and it is short, and so make sure to make the most of it. So that's for people who have that choice. Now, I'm totally sensitive to the fact that not everyone has that choice, and some people just have to do something to pay the bills, and you've got a lot of bills. I respect and honor that as well, and I think in those cases, if you're feeling burnt out, I think it's okay to switch everything off for a weekend and take a break. Maybe even take a few days off because it's so important to recalibrate. So maybe you don't get the option of just leaving the job. That's fine. You might have the option to take a day off or two. Combine it with a weekend. You got 4 days off. That's great. And go do something different. Go put yourself in a different context and circumstance and make sure to spend time with God because He'll give you the energy. We get burnt out because we use our own resources, right? And we become really self-dependent. And I think when you take a break and the reason I'm saying take a break is because it takes you out of that loop that you're in. It give your mind and your body, your soul and your spirit a chance to just recalibrate and to re-energize, not from your own resources, but from God's. So I would highly suggest doing something like that and then coming back into that situation. Outside of that, like if there are specific things I can help with, because I studied business and that's my whole thing is around like HR and people management and team dynamics and stuff. Sometimes it's little tweaks, because it might be just a person or a situation that is, holding you back and burdening you. And as a result, the entire thing looks like it's in disarray when it actually might be something really small that we can isolate and work on. And if so, I know my details will be somewhere on the podcast, so do reach out. I'd be happy to kind of look specifically at your context and see. And also for the first case, if you're looking to switch, because I worked in the humanitarian world, I worked in the private world, I do work with the government, so I've got quite a big eclectic set of skills and also career experience. So if you're just looking to see what other options are out there, do reach out. I'd love to help. I don't want to be burnt out. As someone who does occasionally get burnt out, I think I've just learned the hard way how to deal with it. I don't not get burnt out. I just burn out for less time now. It's also like my journey with God. It's not that I don't at times feel far away from God. I just have better resources as to what to do during those desert times. And it's the same thing with careers and being burnt out. It's natural. It's normal. It's okay to burn out. It's just what you do during that time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, it's a human condition to be burnt out at times and to stop and reassess what you're doing. And I think just knowing how to handle that is important. So thank you for adding that. So for the second person that I was thinking about when I was preparing for this, what would you say to someone who feels like they haven't accomplished anything with their lives? So, they're not burnt out now, but they're kind of just like, okay, I'm looking at myself, I'm looking at the last 10 years, and I don't see anything that I wanted to see out of this. What do I do now?
Hmm. Good question. Man, deep. Well, couple things. I was gonna try processing it, but maybe it's good to just give my the answer that's instinctual. Um, First, I think it's so important to know yourself, and that is a journey. That is not a milestone that you hit. So I would say invest in yourself. So before you start going, what job is going to make me feel really satisfied, or what family situation is going to make me feel fulfilled, or what church do I need to switch to so I'll be happier? I'd start with yourself. So invest in yourself. And by that, I mean get a career coach, go talk to a counselor, maybe get a couple books and read, do some personality tests, figure out what animal you are in the teen dynamics. There's lots of these online resources. Um, don't settle on any one because they are all limited and they're all constrained. When I say invest in yourself, I mean literally every week, if you can, take a couple hours off and do a few tests. Spend time with a career coach or a life coach. Read. Yeah, that's what I mean. And make that a constant part of your life. I think that's the first thing is invest in yourself. I think you'll naturally feel more satisfied and more fulfilled when you know yourself better. Because maybe the context doesn't change, but you'll understand how you work in that context. All of a sudden you go, okay. So in my team, I feel like I'm useless, but I actually know that the role I'm playing is a vital role. So maybe I'm not the guy with the great ideas. Maybe I'm not the girl that is super encouraging or has the right words to say, but I'm the person that follows up everything. And I'm really good at following up. I'm the person that takes notes and really listens. And that's an important part. We can't all be leaders and initiators. Otherwise, nothing would happen. So I think the more you know yourself, you'll certainly feel more satisfied and fulfilled about yourself, but maybe also about your content. So that's the first one, invest in yourself. The second one is certainly, I'm a big person that believes in purpose and passion, and I think they're completely connected to why God put us on earth in the first place. I believe that each of us have a distinct call. And the more you understand the call, the more time you spend with God, the more time you can hear, the better you get at hearing His voice. As it says, the sheep know their shepherd's voice. The more time you're able to hear, the better you're able to hear it. I think the more satisfied you'll be, because even if you haven't reached that perfect goal, you understand and respect the journey that God's taking you on. Otherwise, you're just frustrated with the journey, and you're like, "What are you doing with me, God? Why am I in this situation?" But if you can hear His voice, and if you understand the call, which is which is not something that just is right now, necessarily, and it might be a work in progress. I think you'll be more satisfied with the steps, and even satisfied with the last 10 years, because you might realize the last 10 years was important foundation, was important ground that had to be broken into. Maybe it was a time that was spent preparing the land. The 10 years is not a waste. It might just be a case of perspective, and the better you understand what God is doing and who God is in your life, I think the better perspective you will have. So the second one is certainly around purpose, passion, and those are just cool buzzwords, but I'm making it direct linked with God. And I'm saying you will not know your purpose and your passion if you don't know your God and why He created you. So if you don't really have a context of God, or God seems far, then go with purpose and passion. But if you have a good understanding of God, or you truly want to know your purpose and passion outside of what the self-help books tell you, then spend time with God, because God will tell you. He made you for a reason, and He will gladly tell you. So that's the second one, is purpose, passion, which I'm connecting with knowing your God. So first, know yourself. Two, know your God. And the third is a really simple one. This is the entrepreneurial side to me. It's Nike's slogan: just do it. Just start stuff. If you enjoy playing football and you are overweight or you haven't played football in years, Just start. Go buy a football. As basic as that. Go grab your son or your daughter or your neighbor or someone and just start throwing the ball. Or if you don't ever think you'll go back to the pitch, but you love playing football, go find a team to coach. Go volunteer somewhere. Just go do it. Just start doing stuff. Everything that I've done, everything, and I've done bizarre, amazing things, including last weekend. I was in Germany speaking on cognitive computing. I am not a computer scientist and I'm not an expert in the space, but I shared the stage with the people who are behind Watson, and Watson is leading the charge in cognitive computing. The only reason I was on that stage is because when they asked if I was willing to have a conversation with the guys behind Watson, my answer was yes. It simply starts with yes and doing it. I ended up advising the Irish government on their national policy on entrepreneurship. I have never been in public policy. I've never been a government bureaucrat. I've only been an entrepreneur or called myself an entrepreneur for the last couple of years. The only reason I found myself in that place is because I said yes. So I think it's so important to say yes and to start doing it. You'll be surprised where that path leads you. It's kind of like you, there was a time when you were like, should I write a book or should I not? You read the Bible like everyone reads the Bible, but not everyone writes a book about the Bible. And you did it. And at some point in your brain, you went, you know what? Let me start taking notes. Let me start compiling. Let's just start doing it and let's see what happens. So now that's become a podcast, vlog series. You've got a website going. Who knows? Maybe you'll start becoming a speaker on the topic. Maybe you'll set up a church. Who knows? But it all happened because you started. And I think that's so important. So the third one is a real like practical entrepreneurial thing, which is literally just do it. Whatever makes you happy, whatever currently gives you joy, baby steps. Go start somewhere, you know.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, that's very good practical advice. Everybody should be taking that to heart. Whatever it is, whether you're burned out, whether you just want to start feeling accomplished with something, you want to go for something. So thank you very much for sharing that. So if you want to connect with Daniel, go to iamdanram.com. That's DANRAM.com. And then his Twitter and all the other social media that he does. I guess he uses Snapchat, which I still don't understand at all. But you can find him on all those at iamdanram. And if you look at the notes on this video, you'll be able to see those down below. So if you guys want any more information about living an authentic Christian lifestyle and any other content on my blog, check out everetth.com. Thank you guys very much.